Beyond this, Hazel checked her phone that was lying on the dressing table. No message, no call, nothing, she sighed as she checked herself in the mirror. Her long black hair poured perfectly on her chest, and diamond pendant adorned around her neck. She wore a navy blue tight, fitted long sleeves that used her curves perfectly. The broad neckline of the dress showed off her defined collarbones. The clock strikes 7:45, and Hazel once again checked her phone, her heart aching. Since yesterday, Jack haven't even tried to contact her, and Hazel is getting anxious. Jack often breaks all the contacts with her when things get rough, but Hazel had always been an understanding person, and so she would always give him the space he needed. Yesterday, she also agreed to go to dinner with Austin, and now she regrets it. Last night was good. Austin had been friendly with her, but he is a bipolar person. Hazel sometimes don't even understand him. Also, going out with a person like Austin, who is always attracting unnecessary attention. Due to his exceptional beauty, Hazel wanted to at least look good standing beside him. A honk of a car was heard, and Hazel gasped as she ran towards the window. She placed her hands on the window sill and leaned her body out. There was Austin in his glory. He stepped out of the car and gazed up towards Hazel's window with a lopsided grin. The said man was wearing white shirt that was tugged closely into the black slack pants. His hair were styled slick back, exposing his forehead, and Hazel had to admit that the man is more beautiful than the word beautiful itself. "Come on, we are getting late," he shouted for Hazel to hear him loud, and Hazel found herself nodding before grabbing the black clutch bag in her left hand and placing her phone in it. She made her way out of the bungalow, and Austin was scrolling through his feed. He looked up when Hazel stood in front of him, unable to decide what to do next. Austin let his gaze run from top to the bottom and again to the top. Hazel squirmed under his gaze but decided to not show her nervousness. The aura around Austin is always heavy, and that makes Hazel nervous out of her wits. "Wow," he breathed, eyes wide. "You look really beautiful." Hazel blinked. "What?" Red color adorned her face as she lowered her gaze. She was usually not a shy person, but yet a compliment from a handsome actor made her flustered. "Thank you," she replied, shy and barely audible, but Austin heard her loud and clear. "Let's go," Austin instructed and walked to open the car door for Hazel. She sat into the car. Austin closed the door. She watched him walk towards the driver's seat. He sat beside her and looked at her. He then leaned forward, body pressing against Hazel, and she swore that she could hear her own heart beat. Austin's one arm was caging her on the seat. His face was so close to her that she could feel his breath hitting her face, and then she heard a clicking sound. Austin had secured her in the seatbelt and was now grinning to himself. Hazel's interface turned red as she turned her face to the other side and decided to look out of the window. "Austin is annoying, extremely annoying. You seem to be thinking of something else," he asked as he started the engine. Hazel turned to look at him, and the boy was smirking as he began to drive. "Were you thinking of something dirty, Mrs. Roberts?" "It is." "Shut up!" Austin just chuckled as Hazel turned to look out of the window. His son started the car radio, and Hazel was thankful that the car ride wasn't awkward with silence. "Where are we going?" she asked after 20 minutes of car ride. "It's a surprise," Austin replied, a smug smile on her face. "Oh, come on. You said you wanted a date, so I was just kidding. A date should be romantic and full of fun, so no asking and no answering," he said, and unknowingly Hazel pouted. She hates surprises. The roads were getting sick-loaded. hardly any car on the road, though the area was well maintained with smooth road and healthy trees planted on the either side of the road. The moon was shining brightly in the sky and was giving a silver hue on the trees. Seriously, where are we going? She asked again, the weather getting colder. She could have brought a coat with her. Are you planning to kill me and dispose my body into the deep woods? She asked, and Austin chuckled and quickly glanced at her. As tempting as the idea is, no, I am not killing you. If I wanted to kill you, I would have asked my men to do it for me, he said. What? What men are you talking about? She asked, voice filled with purple tension. God, I was just joking. Why do you take every single thing seriously? Austin laughed, throwing his head back while Hazel was glaring at him. Not funny, she said with a hop, and Austin chuckled again, amusement in his eyes as he kept walking from the road towards her. Probably it wasn't that funny, but your face was worth dying for, he laughed again, and Hazel hopped before looking out of the window. After somewhat 10 minutes later, Austin finally stopped at the car. Hazel looked out of the window and that there was a field in front of her. The green grass were stretched as far as she could see. She could turn to look at Austin who was looking at her from his driver's seat. A gentle smile was on his face. He placed his hand on her head and gently patted her head. Hazel blinked as she looked at him with wide eyes. What's wrong with him? Your hair is a mess, he commented as he poured some more, trying to tame her wild hair. You kept the window open, she commented, voice unconsciously low. I don't like to sit a car on air conditioning. Let's get out, he said to his wife and unlocked both of their seat belts. He stepped out and walked towards Hazel's side and opened the door for her. As soon as Hazel stepped out, she observed her surroundings. In front of her was a huge green field. Picnic here would be amazing, she thought. She turned around and her jaw dropped. In front of her was a big house that almost looked like a castle. It's my hideout place, Austin said in her ear. A shiver ran down her spine at how close Austin was. She stepped away from him. You own this? She asked, eyes gone wide as she glared at the manor. It was similar to that of his grandparents. We own this, he corrected, but Hazel ignored. I just wanted a small place for myself. A small? Dude, are you blind? It's huge, she commented, and Austin chuckled. It is. Now, can we get in? He asked as he offered his hand to her. Yes, she replied while placing her small hands into his. Just like a fairy tale. Hazel's eyes roamed everywhere as Austin led them both in. A huge gate was guarding the manor, just like in the princess movies. The view was dreamy. She can't help herself that she wanted to look around the garden. A butler in black and white iron suit opened the gate for them while slightly bowing at them. Hazel was confused. Austin had previously said that he hates keeping maids and butlers in his house. Then why is the butler here? Austin led them both inside of the gate and tossed the car keys at the butler, who caught the keys in his left hand. Impressive, the butler nodded and quickly went to park the car in. I usually don't leave her, so I need the servants to look after my house in my absence, he answered the unasked question to which Hazel just nodded. The manor gives the same vibes as of Austin's grandparents. It is huge and surrounded by gardens. Just by the look of it looks as if the owner likes privacy. It is beautiful, just like everything Robert's family owned. Austin placed his hand on the small of Hazel's back as he walked them both further. On the main gate of the manor stood two maids. They were wearing black shirt with white blouse, and their hair were made up into a band. They bowed of them as the couple entered the manor. Good evening, sir, madam. They both greeted in unison. Austin walked them both past them, not even sparing a glance, whereas Hazel offered a smile to them. They both entered the manor, and Hazel was once again left astonished by the beauty. Everything was white, from walls to the floor, except for a little bit of black here and there. Mainly the furniture was black. It was beautiful. They walked towards the open stair that connected to the first floor. Hazel let her gaze linger everywhere. Just how rich they are. Even the hall is bigger than Hazel's former apartment. Hazel walked them towards the open balcony. Her eyes went wide as she looked around. The balcony was huge, with various lights illuminating it. There was a round table which was covered with red tablecloth. Two chairs were placed on either side of the table. It it awfully looked exactly like it should if a guy wants to flatter the girl on their first date. Hazel turned to look at Austin, who was already looking at her with a nervous smile on his face. He looked handsome nonetheless. I instructed them to prepare this, he said, sheepishly, a smile never leaving his handsome face. I hope you like it. I love it. Seriously, it's amazing. But you didn't have to do this, all you know. Hazel replied as she gestured towards the arrangement he had made. She had just joked about this date after all. I wanted to do this yesterday. You asked me if it was a date, and I said that it was a date. So apparently, date should be romantic, so here we are. Austin said, a smile never leaving his face. Come, he said as he walked them towards the table. He folded a chair for Hazel before sitting on the opposite side. That's very romantic of you, Mr. Roberts, she smirked, teasing. Anything for you, Mrs. Roberts. Austin replied back with his gesture. With his signature smile that always had a certain effect of Hazel as she blushed and diverted her gaze elsewhere. The sky was pitch black, decorated with stars, but the moon stole the shoe. It was the brightest Hazel love star. Gazing, it's beautiful, right? She heard Austin say, and without looking at him, she nodded. I bought this manor because of the view. It's truly beautiful. I can understand why you choose the place, and besides, the manor is amazing too, she said as she finally looked at him. But isn't it too big for you? I mean, you originally planned to live your life as bachelor, but this house can hold at least 3 families, she said. Austin laughed at the statement, but he agrees too. This place is indeed too big. You can see that I appreciate my space. I love to have my time, and sooner or later we will be shifting to this place, he said, and watched as Hazel's eyes go wide at it. What? Why? She asked, because she don't understand to ship into this place. When she is perfectly fine with the bungalow they are living at the moment. Just for fun, why not make use of this place in future? Not now, though, but maybe later sometime, he said. Two maids that were waiting for them in front of the gate walked towards them with a tray of food. Hazel nostrils flared as she smelled this delicious aroma of steak. The maid placed the food wordlessly in front of them and immediately made their way out. Maybe they are intimidated by Austin's dangerous aura, Hazel concluded. Austin glanced at the steak, and by taking the fork and knife in his hand, he began to cut the steak into smaller pieces. He cut one piece, and Hazel thought that he will pop that piece into his mouth, but instead the said man cut the entire steak into smaller pieces. He is weird. Ignoring him, Hazel cut the steak too, but to her surprise, the plate was taken away from him, and soon it was replaced with a plate of steak which Austin had cut before. Eat it, Austin instructed to the dazed Hazel. Austin had cut the steak into pieces just for her. Well, that's new and surprising. What exactly goes into his little head? He is always poker face, and Hazel can't pinpoint on what's going on his mind. He is everywhere, and this every action is unpredictable. I know that I am handsome, but can you please start eating? He asked, and Hazel blinked, face red with embarrassment that she was caught staring at him red-handed. She gulped and looked down at the plate before starting eating quietly. She could feel Austin smirking at her, but she decided not to pay the man any heed. How many boyfriends did you have? Austin asked suddenly out of nowhere, making Hazel choke. What? I asked how many boyfriends did you had in your past? He repeated, showing softly. Hazel gulped involuntarily, her mind directing her towards Jack. One, she replied honestly. Jack has been her only boyfriend throughout her life. No one had allured her the way he did. Oh, Austin said while nodding. What about you? She asked. Can't help but be curious. Life of a superstar is always on the exposure, but Austin had never been caught on the scandal until last week with Amelia. None, he replied. None? She asked. Yup, I wasn't looking for a relationship. I don't like a relationship. Thanks, I was fine with just sex. Now, don't ask me about how many one-night stands I have had because I don't remember. He answered and Hazel chuckled at him. Nation's sweetheart is after all not that innocent, I guess, she teased. I was never innocent. You will be shocked to know how dirty and shameless I can be. He smirked. You? Why do you always say something so absurd things without any shame? She exclaimed, face blooming to extreme color of red. I just told you that I can be extremely shameless. He pointed again, and besides, can't I flirt with my own wife? We are both using each other. What has gotten into you, Mr. Roberts? A week ago, you cheated on your wife and now you are flirting. Matt, don't add up to me, she teased. She really doesn't understand him, really. Maybe it is because you are bad at math. He joked and threw his head back as he laughed on his own joke while Hazel gave him her offended face. How dare he? Excuse me, I am amazing at math, he debated herself. Her nostrils were flaring as he breathed heavily. You kind of strike me like a nerd, he countered back with a smirk on his face, and Hazel just hoped she can't compete with him in an argument. Her husband is too much for her, sometimes sweet, sometimes a shul. It confused her to no end. Being a good math and being a nerd is a different thing. She protested, but her protest was heard by deaf ears. After their dinner, Austin proposed to have a small trip of the manor in Hazel. Was more than willing to oblige. She already wanted to look around the place. Manor was huge. There were multiple bedrooms. There was a huge library that was even bigger than the city's local library. There was music room too, a separate chamber for maids, and a huge kitchen that makes Hazel to wants to cook something there. Austin led them towards the ballroom, and Hazel could only look around with wide eyes. It looked like it came directly out of the movies, a typical Prince Charming ballroom. I used to have business parties here. I still do. I mean, Grandpa celebrates her, he informed, smug look on his face. He combed his fingers through his black hair as he looked around the hall. It has been long since he last visited this place. It's beautiful, she breathed. The room was not rustic with a touch of royalty. There was a chandelier hanging in the middle of the room. There were golden pillars scattered around the room. It was truly amazing. Wanna dance? Austin asked. His right arm was stretched was Hazel to take. She glanced at him and then at his arms, confused. Without music? She asked with a raised eyebrow, amused. Yes, he simply replied, and Hazel placed her smaller hand into his. He pulled her closer by her wrist and gently began to sway around. He smiled before twirling Hazel in his hold and dipping her low before making her stand straight. Hazel giggled. You are a good dancer, she commented, because he really is good. Every move is perfect and calculated, whereas she was stumbling on her own pit. Grandpa taught me he is hopelessly romantic and would open dance with Grandma. I was curious too, and so told him to teach me too. He would say that I could use my dance skills with my wife. He smirked while Hazel smiled as red spread on her cheeks. You seem to be very close to them, she commented as she looked down to not to step her foot on Austin's. Yup, they are everything I have, along with Edward, he said as she smiled to himself. Hazel didn't dare to ask about her parents. Music wasn't needed. The sound of their heels clinking against the marble floor was enough to act as a music. Austin smirked as he dipped Hazel low again, making her grasp by the sudden moment. He just chuckled at her, amused by her expression. Can I ask you something? She asked as Austin turned her in such a manner that her back was pressed against his sturdy chest. She could practically feel his warmth seeping into her. Shoot, what if I wasn't me you were meeting that day at the date? What if it was somebody else who had nothing to lose and had nothing for you to blackmail? Here, what would you do? She asked the question that had been in her mind for so long. Austin had married her by saying that he will save the orphanage in which she grew up, but what if some other girl was not as vulnerable as her? I would not have agreed to go on a blind date with her, Austin said as he turned him round. He leaned forward and whispered in his wife's ear, Do you remember that I had known you? Who you were even before we met? I had known your weakness and I just offered you the cure, he said. He pulled back and grinned innocently at her. She looked at him with her black eyes, gazing at him curiously. How did you get my information? Because the blind date was set up by an app, she said with a frown. Austin just shrugged. Anything is possible if you are rich and know how to use your money, he said, and besides, I didn't use your information to cause you harm. It's kind of win-win situation and win-win profit. My grandparents were nagging me to get married and you seem to be a perfect option. Hazel shouldn't feel insulted, but she did. So you are using me, she said as he dipped her again. She closed her eyes when she felt Austin's soft lips brushing the sensitive spot of her neck. Yes, just like you are using me, he said and planted a small peck on his wife's milky white skin over down her body as she involuntarily closed her eyes. It was the truth, though she was using Austin in a worst ways possible. She was dating behind her back. She was also going to use his money for something she and her boyfriend wanted to have. The money will be technically hers, but yet it felt wrong. Austin thinks that she married him because of the bankrupt orphanage. It was true, but her main motto was to use this money for her boyfriends and her needs. Throughout this marriage, she will try to gain as much as money possible from Austin. She feels guilty about this, but for the future of her and her boyfriend, she is willing to do this. Boys love, you didn't even invite me. Me? Austin, what the hell? A very angry voice said that probably came from downstairs. It seemed like they are having a visitor downstairs who goes to someone's place at this place. It's too early. Hazel opened her black eyes and groaned before closing it again. She turned her head to the other side to get back to sleep, but it seemed like she wasn't able to sleep again anytime soon. Her brain was wide awake now due to the noise. She was still in her soft bed, but she knew the noise coming from downstairs woke her up from her dreamland. Sighing to herself, she sat straight on the bed, the Dobit pill on her lap as she wiped the dried towel that was sticking on her left cheek, indicating that she slept like a baby yesterday, which was understandable because a date night with Austin had drained her all. She stepped out of the bed and directly made her way towards the bathroom because she didn't want to go down just yet and scare the visitor from miles away. She brushed her teeth rather quickly and tried to tame her messy bed hair that looked at as if it's a nest for the birds. Trust her hair to have her own mood each day. It won't disappoint you. When she was done, she walked out of the bathroom and went down tying her hair in a tight ponytail. By the way, where is your wife? The bachelor boy said. The voice was high-pitched and it sounded excited. She is sleepy. I am here, Hazel announced, cutting Austin in his mid-sentence. Austin turned her look at her eyes wide with surprise. He was dressed in black tank top and joggers. He was slightly sweaty, maybe because he was training session early. In front of his huge and tall physique was a soft-looking and comparatively short young man peeking from Austin's shoulder. Oh, hi, the man said cheerfully as he shoved Austin aside, who stumbled a little and jogged towards the end of the stair where Hazel was standing. I finally got to meet you. I wanted to meet the girl who stole Austin cold heart since I heard that he married, but my boss is an asshole. Asshole and have me tons of work, he explained, eyes turning crescent as he smiled brightly and at Hazel, who was looking at him with confused gaze. I am Nathan, by the way, he introduced. Hi, nice to meet you, Hazel said, so while awkwardly smiling at him and looking at Austin, who was just glued to his place. Oh yeah, me too. Please tell me from where did you bought this pajama? He said as he pointed at Hazel's clothing. Only then did Hazel realize that she is wearing a pink pajama with rabbits on it. Embarrassment ran from her head to her too. I love it. Maybe I will get matching pajama with Edward, he exclaimed again with a dreamy look on his face. Hazel got confused at that. Why do they need a matching pajama? He is Ed's boyfriend, by the way, Austin said, clearly seeing his wife's inner turmoil. He walked and placed his hand on Nathan's shoulder, who didn't seem to mind the sudden touch. Hazel's eyes went wide. Boyfriend's Nathan was looking at her with neutral expression. Really? She asked in disbelief. Her face broke in a pleasant smile. That's amazing. You two would make a cute couple. It was her time to squeal and Nathan blinked multiple times before his face to broke into a perfect crescent eyes smile that made him look so cute. He is adorable. Do you think so? He asked with his smile that could make anyone's heart melt into a puddle, and Hazel already liked this guy. I know so, she said honestly, because it was the truth. Edward was handsome with wide back, whereas Nathan was comparatively small and adorable, which made the couple look cute. Nathan's smile grew even bigger at that. Nathan, come have breakfast with us. I was about to make some pancakes. Austin voice cut in. Hazel nodded to looking too much eager to have Nathan's company. I would have loved to have some, but I have to work, he said, giving a sharp look at Austin, who gave him sympathetic look. Hazel looked dejected too. She was looking forward to hear their love story. Maybe next time then, Austin said, voice neutral. Let me walk you out of here. Oh, I totally forgot. I actually came here for a reason which I completely forgot because of you two. As you both are not organizing a celebratory party which Edward had demanded from you week ago. Edward and I took that duty upon us, so I came here to officially invite you at our house on Saturday night, he said cheerfully. Hazel and Austin looked at each other for a while. Hazel felt uneasy about it because she haven't met much of Austin's friend and she doesn't think that her acting is that top notch to fall. Everyone, I will have to check whether I have any schedule at the time. I will let you know about it to you later, Austin said. Clear, if you have anything planned, because I came here to inform you that you are coming. I didn't came here to ask you whether you are coming or not, Nathan commented as he placed his back goggles on his tiny nose. Sassy Hazel thought. On the other hand, Austin just rolled his eyes at his dramatic friend. Sister-in-law, see you later, Nathan said, smiling once again at her. See you, Hazel said, just as cheerfully as him. As she watched her husband walk Nathan out of the house, Nathan glanced at her one time before looking at Austin. I am glad that she isn't homophobic, or else I would have thrown some hands, he said with a smirk on his face as he opened his black car door that stood in front of the main gate. Austin chuckled at him. I am glad too. It seems like you two will soon be planning on going shopping together at this rate, Austin commented with a glimpse of mischief in his eyes. You bet, Nathan giggled before sitting in the car and starting the engine driving up. Austin watched the black car drive away before walking back in. When the walked in, he saw Hazel making coffee in the kitchen. She turned around and looked at him. She raised the mug, silently asking him to come and drink. She placed 2 mugs on the kitchen counter before sitting on the kitchen stool. Austin sat beside her as he brought his coffee to his lips. A good amount of caffeine is much needed to start the day, although Nathan had provided enough serotonin for the day. He is sweet, Hazel said, breaking the silence between them. Austin turned to look at her with a raised eyebrow. He is adorable, actually. Austin wanted to scoop at that thought. You seem to like him a lot, he commented, a chuckle leaving his thin lips. He seemed to be kind-hearted and totally opposite to you, so of course I like him, Hazel joked, eyes clinked with mischief in Austin's scope. What do you mean? Austin asked, sounding offended as he glared at his wife. You are cold and narcissistic. Sometimes what you speak goes up above my head and beyond my imagination, she answered, honestly dripping in her words, as if she wasn't insulting her husband, who was sitting right in front of her, whereas Nathan seems friendly and easy to understand. Exactly opposite to you, she pointed at him, and Austin dramatically held his chest where his heart is situated. Ouch, he winces as it hurts. You are hurting my feelings, wifey. I think I am horrible wounded. Good, Hazel chuckled, and Austin joined her too, throwing his head back a little as he laughed along with Hazel. Since their little date last night, they seemed to have fallen in much friendly pace than they were before, although Austin had been painfully honest. Hazel don't mind, though yesterday night she cried herself to sleep, but yet she know that she's using Austin too, and so it was fine. It has to be fine. After drinking her coffee, Hazel watched as Austin started making the pancakes. She sat there silently watching the man do all the work. He is seriously good at everything. Truly, the nation's IT boy. Were Grandma and Grandpa okay with Edward's and Nathan relationship? She can't help but ask about it to Austin, who was spreading butter into the pan. A sizzling sound filled the kitchen, spur in aroma soon filled into. They were open to us. They never judged us for our sexuality. Edward and I, both being a bisexual, was never a problem to them. They aren't a typical old people with narrow mindset, he said with a soft smile, as he remembered how calmly their grandparents had taken the news of him being a bisexual person, whereas Hazel had her eyes comically widened at the confession of her husband. Wow, was all the left her lips, amusement clear on her beautiful face. Yeah, wow, Austin rolled his eyes. The girl is weird. Nathan seems to be a great guy. How long have you guys known him? She asked out of curiosity. Were childhood friends, so we have known him for years now. Edward had told me in his early teen days that he has a crush on Nathan. I remember how awkward he was to share that with me. Austin chuckled as I remember how Edward had told him about his crush one night. Boy small and eyes wide. It took them years to confess their feelings for each other. It's been 4 years since they are dating. Hazel had a dreamy look plastered on her face, mouth ajar as she listened carefully to the details. It's beautiful, their story, Hazel commented. It's hard to find true love. Austin added he didn't even believe that love exists in real life. According to him, love just happened in books and movies. I have never seen a boy couple, so I am excited for the party at their place," she said, sounding just as excited as she felt. "I am big fan of boys love comics," she added, and Austin stopped in his tracks. "What do you mean?" he asked as he turned around to look at her. Hazel giggled before replying. "I said I love boys love comics. I spent hours reading them," she confessed with a glee in her eyes as she watched Austin shake his head. You are weird," was all he replied.